A colossal and fast-moving object, nearly the size of Manhattan, was detected hurtling toward our solar system, and soon it was predicted to make its closest approach to Earth. News of this discovery spread with remarkable speed, igniting in equal measure both fascination and unease across the globe. Scientists, enthusiasts, and ordinary people alike could not help but wonder, what if this interstellar object, moving with silent determination through the dark expanse of our system, was not merely a fragment of drifting cosmic debris, but instead a nuclear-powered spacecraft sent by an alien intelligence to test how humanity would react to such an intrusion? That question, long the realm of science fiction and speculative musings, suddenly pressed its way into legitimate scientific and philosophical discussion. The object, formally named 3I/Atlas, had already captured global attention upon its discovery, since it was only the third confirmed interstellar visitor to ever pass through our solar system. If this kind of story touches your heart, if you're someone who cares about truth, responsibility, and speaking up for the voiceless, please like this video, subscribe to our channel Spark Science, and share it with someone who should hear it. Let's get started. Its arrival promised rare insight into the mysteries of the deep cosmos, an opportunity to study matter forged under alien stars. Yet, within only a few weeks of careful observation, astronomers noticed that its path held a surprise no one could have possibly prepared for. For days and nights, observatories tracked it relentlessly, refining their calculations, updating predictions, and arguing over possibilities. And then the moment came that would alter the discussion forever, a small but unmistakable change in its trajectory. Against every model, every expectation, 3I/Atlas did something extraordinary: it turned back. Rather than continuing on a standard outbound journey into interstellar space, it altered course with a smooth, deliberate elegance that defied every natural explanation. Astronomers confirmed quickly that it was not a mistake in tracking, not an error in data or calculation. This was something else entirely. That subtle redirection, though slight, carried with it a deeply chilling implication: this object was not a simple remnant of cosmic wanderings obeying gravity and inertia. Something deliberate, something unnatural, was at work. A mindless rock does not decide to change its path. And with that realization, fear began to stir in even the most rational hearts. Normally, when interstellar objects enter our solar system, the expectation is routine and predictable. They follow hyperbolic trajectories, swinging past the sun in a quick gravitational dance before accelerating outward again, never to return. That had been the case with Oumuamua in 2017, a cigar-shaped enigma that puzzled scientists with its acceleration, and with 2I/Borisov in 2019, a more comet-like traveler that streaked through and left us behind. Both moved on quietly, and while they left behind questions, they did not linger. 3I/Atlas, however, broke this quiet pattern in a way that shook the scientific community to its core. The deviation it displayed could not be explained away as an observational fluke. A global network of observatories, using independent methods, locked onto its path, each measurement confirming the same extraordinary conclusion: a force beyond the pull of the sun had acted upon it, and it had done so with precision. This was the fact that tightened throats and raised heartbeats in observatories around the world. A turn suggests intention, and intention implies control. Was the object propelled by some hidden technology? Could it be using radiation pressure, a propulsion method invisible to us, or something operating on principles far beyond human comprehension? Analysts drew immediate comparisons to the peculiar acceleration of Oumuamua, which had long been debated as either the result of outgassing or possibly something far less mundane. But unlike that earlier visitor, 3I/Atlas did not simply speed up, it redirected itself. That single, silent maneuver carried with it the weight of humanity's oldest suspicions and deepest fears. For centuries, we had comforted ourselves with the thought that the stars watched us with indifference. Now, suddenly, it seemed that something among those stars might have sent an emissary that had chosen to act. Interstellar bodies are supposed to drift endlessly between stars, scarred by collisions, baked by radiation, wandering without will or purpose. Yet here was one that shattered that image. To watch it pivot back toward the inner solar system unsettled even the most hardened skeptics. Telescopes tracked its new trajectory, capturing data that showed it bending away from an escape path and curving inward with a grace that seemed anything but random. The maneuver was neither abrupt nor chaotic, it was executed with smooth precision, almost as though a guiding hand had steered it. And in that precision lay the confirmation of humanity's dread: this might not be a natural traveler at all, but something constructed, something guided. Scientists, unwilling to leap too quickly, maintained a public composure, publishing cautious updates and urging patience. Yet behind the careful language, fear simmered quietly. If this object had maneuvered deliberately, then intelligence was unquestionably involved. Whether it was a probe, an autonomous drone, or something else entirely, the leap from natural object to technological craft was no longer a wild fantasy, it was the conclusion that the evidence demanded. And perhaps most unnerving of all was the silence. There was no radio beacon, no transmission, no signal of any kind. If it was technological, it did not announce itself. That silence was deafening, filling the void with unsettling possibilities. Silence could mean secrecy. Silence could mean indifference. Both were terrifying when applied to an object capable of guiding itself through the heavens. As confirmation of its altered trajectory spread, the discussion escaped the walls of academia and spilled into governments, militaries, and eventually the public consciousness. What could possibly compel an object, or whatever it was, to turn back rather than continue on its path into the void? Was it surveying us? Did it detect something on Earth worth investigating? Or, more ominously, was it responding to a signal, one that we had failed to notice? If it had goals, then it had plans. And that thought was staggering. Humanity was accustomed to being the observer, the one who studied and catalogued the universe. To suddenly realize that we might be the ones under observation was a reversal almost too great to comprehend. Agencies began holding secretive briefings, asking questions that reverberated through the halls of power and into the collective imagination. What if the object came closer? What if this was not the first such visitation, but merely the first one we had noticed? Observers pointed out the obvious: there was no visible venting of gas or dust that could explain the shift. Unlike comets that spew jets of vapor when warmed by the sun, 3I/Atlas remained serene, calm, and steady. If it had propulsion, that propulsion was hidden, or operating on principles that remained entirely unknown to us. Some speculated about vast solar sails invisible to our instruments. Others whispered about electromagnetic drives or manipulation of gravitational fields. But none of the theories explained the precision, the timing, or the reason for the maneuver. And so astronomers kept watching, day by day, carrying the immense weight of knowing they might be witnessing the most important event in human history. For the first time, something had contradicted Newton and Kepler in ways that could not be ignored. The void was not empty. And it had noticed us. That single act, turning back, transformed 3I/Atlas from curiosity into confrontation, even in silence. Its symbolism was nearly as powerful as the physics. Humanity had always gazed outward, assuming the universe was a silent theater waiting to be studied. But this visitor's maneuver suggested the opposite: sometimes the theater gazes back. It was not only a physical shift in direction but a symbolic shift in perspective, one that demanded a re-evaluation of our place in the cosmos. It challenged our assumption of solitude. It forced recognition that the sky might hold watchers as well as wanderers. And even before any further events unfolded, this realization altered the trajectory of human thought. If this object was guided, then we were not the first beings in the cosmos to make machines. We were not the only ones. We might not even be early participants in the grand story of the universe. And perhaps most haunting of all was that our first undeniable evidence of this fact came not in language, not in a signal, not in an intentional broadcast, but in a quiet, precise maneuver. A turn, executed in silence, spoke louder than any message. It was as though the object were declaring without words, "We are here, and we are capable." That alone was revelation enough. The world watched intently as trajectory graphs bent against all predictions, the curves of its path mocking every established model. Humanity felt the tremor of recognition, this was no longer just a fleeting visitor. It had returned its gaze upon us. And from that moment forward, whatever came next belonged not only to science, but to history. Already, the rules of celestial dynamics had been rewritten. This was no longer a body bound strictly by the pull of gravity. It had demonstrated autonomy. It had declared, in effect, that it was free from the laws binding all other known objects in the heavens. That silent gesture carried a message powerful enough to pierce human certainty, and humanity was forced to listen. For millennia, the night sky had been a symbol of constancy. Farmers, sailors, dreamers, and scientists alike had trusted its predictability. But now, one point of light betrayed that trust, showing itself not as a background object but as an actor. It was as if a statue had turned its head or a shadow had blinked, something assumed inert had revealed the will to act. The fear it awakened reached beyond science, touching the deepest corners of the human psyche, the primal fear of being watched by something vast, alien, and silent. Telescopes strained for more answers. Infrared arrays searched for heat signatures. Radio dishes listened endlessly for even a whisper of transmission. But nothing came. No warmth, no signal, only silence. And that silence itself was a message, one that was perhaps even more unsettling than any sound could have been. If advanced, the object had chosen invisibility. If indifferent, then humanity was beneath its notice. Neither option brought comfort. The psychological impact spread far beyond scientific circles, seeping into culture, politics, philosophy, and religion. Writers and thinkers wrestled with questions of meaning. Social media exploded with speculation, half in hope and half in dread. Artists painted, wrote, and composed, trying to capture the awe and terror of a silent traveler that had turned back toward us. Religious leaders framed it as a sign, a warning, or a confirmation of ancient beliefs. Governments held emergency meetings, militaries whispered of defense strategies that could never be enacted, and scientists poured out papers at a pace unmatched in modern times. The world was unprepared, yet utterly captivated. Day by day, its trajectory was refined, its path more carefully mapped. Was it steering towards something in particular within the solar system? Was it executing maneuvers with deliberate efficiency? Each update sparked more questions, but one truth stood clear above them all: nothing like this had ever been seen before. No interstellar object had ever behaved in such a way. 3I/Atlas was no longer merely an entry in the catalogue of astronomical phenomena. It had become a symbol, a hinge moment in human history. Its silence was haunting. Its action was undeniable. And in that act, humanity faced a revelation both profound and staggering: the universe is not merely a place of silent drift. It is capable of deliberate motion. And now, for the first time, we had witnessed it